Hey everybody, this is Derek from the Grumpy Guy Show for episode number 47. When is the snow welcome? Recorded on April 18th, 2022. Tonight, I talk about Google Adsense, buying electric cars to be green, and snow in April? Huh? Stick around. Good evening, everybody. This is Derek with the Grumpy Guy Show. So it's another episode where Ryan's still not feeling quite right. Hopefully it doesn't end up being COVID. We did do an at-home test. He had a test at school last week. He got another one. So fingers crossed that it's not actually COVID. But when he went back yesterday, he was feeling better. So if it was COVID, then he could possibly be on the mend from it. But we'll see, and we'll certainly, hopefully he'll be back next week. Because I'm not all that great at this by myself by any means, so. And it's certainly not nearly as fun when you don't have somebody to interact with while you're doing this stuff. So hopefully he'll be back and we can get back into our awesome transitions, just like this one right here. So we're going to start out talking about the Ukraine war, which, we mentioned quite a bit on here because it is a huge event that's happening in the world. So, everybody knows it's happening. I mean, it's all over the place. But something that just kills me. Now, I have a blog that actually started. It's kind of the start of this. It was before the whole podcast thing really took off. But it's called Get Off My Lawn. You actually have to spell it Get Off LWN to find it. It's on Blogger. Maybe I'll throw a link in here in case anybody's interested in anything I'd ever put up there. But basically, with that, it's got ads on it because, I figured, what the heck? Just throw them on there. People ignore them, they ignore them. And I haven't gotten any money from it because, people ignore them. I don't care. Probably even blocked with ad blockers, but no big deal. But anyhow, Google, it's a Google product, so they use Google AdSense for their ads. And I received an email about it the other day, and it starts out with, "Dear publisher, due to the war in Ukraine, we will pause monetization of content that exploits, dismisses, or condones the war." And I don't really need to read any more of it. All I can think is, what the hell is wrong with people? I mean, seriously, there's verified video going around showing, and these are videos from people who live in Ukraine, showing the decimation that's happened, showing that Russia is literally being, they're just wiping out entire cities. It's not like they're going after just military installations. They're going after civilian installations because this is a war of terror. But at any rate, how could you dismiss it? How could you say that that it is not happening? I'm just baffled. In the whole exploits. Okay, well, this would tell me that Google is going to cut off all advertising funds within YouTube by all of these media companies, meaning ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, any of them that are posting on YouTube. It's got to cut the ads on that because guess what? Any ads that they're putting in there, That's exploiting people's interest in this war. You can't say anything but that. But, and who the hell would condone any war? Any war. At all. I mean, come on. War is not good for anybody except for the rich. Because the rich end up getting richer because at the end of it, they start selling more products, to fix the economy and fix all these destroyed buildings and everything. It's not good for anybody. People die unnecessarily, and that's the only way you can put it, is they're dying unnecessarily. There's no reason for all of these citizens to be killed off other than, somebody someplace decided, hey, let's prove that we can take this. Let's prove that we can do this or whatever. It's just it's ridiculous. But, I'm not looking to exploit it. Because, simply put, folks, I don't have ads on here. You watch this because I'm talking about it, okay, that's fine. But, I'm not looking to exploit it. I'm not looking for that to be the reason that you watch my podcast or that you stick around and watch more episodes. It's a current event, and really what this podcast is about is complaining about current events and current happenings. So, decide what you want, but I think the fact that Google had to send this out was pretty darn stupid. And that's all there is to it. It's pretty stupid. Not on Google's part. It's stupid on the people who are exploiting this. There's no reason whatsoever to exploit some really tragic event like that. It shows what a horrible place humanity is in. But anyway, so what do you say we move on? Short topic there, but we'll move on because that just bothers me, in case you couldn't tell. So the next transition right here takes us into the whole idea of green cars, being green about your car. Now, I've talked about how I don't think, electric cars are green, as they say. But what makes it worse is people are actually going and they're trading in their perfectly good car just because it's an internal combustion engine. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're gonna replace your car, it's a different story. If there's something wrong with your car, whether you got in an accident or, or something worse. I don't know, I guess an accident would probably be the worst situation, but, let's just say the car is old and repairs just are not worth it. You're going to trade your car in for that reason. Okay, not a problem. I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is you taking a perfectly good car, trading it in just because it's an internal combustion engine car and you want electric. That is worse than continuing to drive that car, because what's going to happen? Well, maybe the car is in really, really good shape and they'll be able to resell it. However, maybe it's not. Maybe it's functional, but it's so old that nobody's going to want to buy it. Or maybe you're just trading it in because you want the latest and greatest. Leases. To me, they're the worst idea in the world. Number one, you never own the vehicle. All you do, you pay for the vehicle. And by the way, over a 3-year lease, you're probably going to end up paying more than what the car is truly worth. Meaning, you're paying more than what it costs the manufacturer to build the car. Build it, ship it, and sell it. But number two, with a lease, what do? Well, when the lease is up, you trade it in and you get a new lease. what happens to that old car? Kind of pointless, don't you think? I mean, seriously. A lease is convenient. A lease is a convenience for somebody who has to have the latest and greatest. It's not good for the environment. Plain and simple. It's not good for the environment in any way, shape, or form. Because it's like I said before with these phones, You get a new phone. Why do you get a new phone? It's not because your phone is bad. It's not because your phone has died. No. You get a new phone because you want the latest and greatest. Well, if everybody just goes out and decides they're going to replace their internal combustion engine cars with electric, you're not really helping the environment at all, because you've just created landfill. I mean, there's a good chance that your car is not going to be resold, which means it's going to end up being demolished, or it's just going to sit there and rot away. That's not good for the environment. The best thing that we could do, and this kind of goes back to manufacturers, because they don't build these cars the way that they did back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even the early 80s. They're building these cars with an expected lifespan, especially now with the electronics in them. They're not building these to last for 30 or 40 years. They're building these to last 10 years at most. They don't want you to hold on to a car for 15 years. They don't even want you to hold on to a car for 5 years. The only reason they want you to hold on to a car is so that it's far enough along in its age that you trade it in at a much, much lower value than what they can sell it at. So, I mean, you look at it now, most people can't afford a car loan of 4 years. It's just, cars are just way too expensive. So you end up getting a 5-year, a lot of people get 5-year loans, or, there's people, I will fully admit that I have a 7-year loan. They don't want my car to last 7 years. They want it to last 4 years and then give me some incentives to trade it in. Of course, when you're talking about cars like Tesla, the incentive is, well, we're going to start turning off functions. That's truly what happens. I mean, the Tesla is really setting themselves up to let you subscribe to a car. So, this autopilot feature that they keep talking about, this whole idea that the car's going to drive itself. That's a subscription. You get these people, there's some people who paid like $10,000 or $20,000 on top of the cost of the car just to get this. And now they find out that was basically just a deposit. They're going to they've got a subscription to keep it, and I find it ridiculous. But if you decide, what, I'm not going to pay for that subscription anymore, it's not like you have to go into the dealer and have them do anything. No. No, that's not it at all. They just push a button on the computer and it sends a signal out to your car, and suddenly you no longer have it. You could be driving down the highway and suddenly it turns off. You have no warning about that. It just turned off. But that leads us to another point about the problem with electric cars, and it goes right back to Tesla. So Tesla has built out, some form of their own infrastructure for charging with their superchargers. But the problem is those superchargers are not compatible with other makes, other models. They're they're compatible with Teslas, but they're not compatible with electric vehicles from GM, from Ford, from Hyundai, they're not compatible with those. So, here we are. We're gonna have this infrastructure where you have to go to a specific place. You have to give money to Tesla to charge your Tesla, or you have to give money to GM to charge your GM. It's ridiculous. They should not be able to continue to make money off of these things after you've purchased it. They should not be a supplier of electricity. Plain and simple. Just like right now, they are not a supplier of gasoline. They're not a supplier of oil. It's I don't know. It's something that unfortunately I think the government's going to have to step in, and they're going to have to say, hey, this is it. Either you guys come up with a standard on your own that works across all makes, or we step in and dictate a standard to you. It's going to have to happen. It worked with the Motion Picture Association with the ratings. The government kind of said, "Hey, you got to control this stuff. You got to start warning people and letting people know." Well, it worked. The motion picture industry did it on their own. That's not government controlled. It's not government funded. That's all from the industry. Same thing with the gaming industry. Games started to get really violent, and people were afraid that the violence was going to come out in the real world, so that's what they did. They adopted a similar thing to the motion picture industry. It worked. Well, the government's got to step up, and they got to say, listen, Tesla, number one, you cannot own these charging stations. Number two, these charging stations need to be universal for all electric cars, trucks, whatever. Simply put, it can be different when you're talking about like a commercial vehicle. When you're talking about a semi-truck, that can be a whole lot different, because that's going to require a lot more power and a lot longer time to charge than a passenger vehicle. But, what do I know? I'm just some little guy on the side who, is going to get stuck dealing with this crap where I have to foot the bill for Tesla to become wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. I'm not going to have a choice. I'm going to have to go to a Tesla. If I were to buy a Tesla, I'm going to have to go to a Tesla charger to charge it and pay Tesla whatever rate they're charging me, unless I'm charging at home, which, by the way, is an added cost that people don't take into account when they start talking about buying an electric vehicle. You can't just plug it into any outlet. Oh, no. You have to have a charger installed. And, of course, it's specific to your vehicle, which means, oh, by the way, if you bought a Tesla the first time, you're not going to be able to buy a Ford next time, unless you install a different charging station. It's ridiculous. And this is supposed to be the future that saves us. Come on. This is worse than what Apple's doing and what, with their Lightning port. I understand the EU is starting to tell Apple, hey, you have to switch to USB-C for charging. Of course, Apple claims they can't do it. Oh, we can. It just won't work, which is bogus, because there's some engineer who actually took apart an iPhone and put in a working USB-C in replacement of the Lightning connector or whatever it is there. And then, of course, they took a Lightning connector and put it into an Android phone just to prove that, guess what? It's not hard to do. But anyhow, so you've gotta add in a few $1,000s. I don't know how much, but you gotta add in money for these charging stations. it's utterly ridiculous. Oh well. All right. So what do you say we move on to the next topic? These electric vehicles, they're really giving me a lot of material on here. Oh my. So, a lot of people know that this year weather has been really topsy-turvy. Last week we were in the 70s, and as of about 2 hours ago, we're in a winter storm warning. It's just ridiculous. There's actually some places not far from us that are expecting up to a foot of snow. Completely nuts. I mean, there were people last week riding their motorcycles all over the place. I mean, there was some nut. I couldn't believe it. I had to go over the weekend. I had to go down the highway, and it was kind of late in the evening on Friday, and it was kind of cold. I mean, I'll be honest, it was just above 40 degrees, and there's some idiot going, I'm headed south, and there's some idiot going north on a motorcycle. One of the ones where your hands are way up like this, so they're fully exposed. He's got a half helmet on and nothing covering the bottom of his face, and all I could think was, dude, you gotta be freezing your tuchus off. I mean, I've ridden when it was 50 degrees, and that's cold. Especially, I haven't been on the highway at 50 degrees, which means I wasn't doing, 65 to 70 miles an hour. I can't imagine. I mean, I was doing 50 to 55, and I was freezing, and it was 50 degrees out. I can't imagine it being 40 degrees and doing 70 miles an hour on a highway. That's just insane. But anyway, back to the story, because, been a while since I've been sidetracked, I guess. But, so, we're under this winter storm watch, and I guess our area is a warning, whatever the lowest thing is, I don't know. We're only expected to get like 5 inches at the most, which is really sad because today's Monday, and by Friday it's supposed to be in the 60s. So, it's a serious roller coaster with temperatures. But at any rate, so we got the news going, and of course we watch the local news, and they outline exactly the areas that are gonna get hit hardest. And then we get to the world news. I mean, you really got to put that in quotes, but yeah, we get to the more national level news, and they're talking to a meteorologist, and he says, the snow is not welcome in mid-April. All I could think is, all right, first, you live in New York City, you're not getting a whole lot of snow very often. Second, when the hell is snow welcome? I mean, come on. That's just such a stupid statement. I mean, yeah, sure, some people, oh, I want a white Christmas. Who cares? I mean, I'm not one who's going to complain about the snow, but I'm not saying that I ever want snow. I live here because, honestly, there's fewer major weather events. I mean, snow is extremely predictable. Hurricanes, tornadoes, they're not predictable. Wildfires, not so predictable. So that's why I like living where I do. Among other reasons, as far as less traffic and, whatever. But that doesn't mean that I really like the snow. I'm not somebody who goes skiing. I'm not somebody who goes out riding snowmobiles. I don't hate the snow, but it's not like it's ever welcome. I never want the snow to come. I mean, seriously. And here's this guy who the only time he goes to really snowy areas is when, the news is trying to make something big out of something that most locals are like, yeah, okay, it's just another day. I mean, there's been a few times that they've gone up north of us. There's a section of Interstate 81 that it gets hit hard because of where it is in location to the lake. It's called lake effect snow. Basically, Lake Ontario doesn't freeze over. Obviously, middle of winter, the water of the lake is warmer than the air. Air rises, creates moisture in the snow, or creates moisture in the air. Because it's cold, that creates snow. This area, it's one of the snowiest places in the United States. But they've been up there, but that's just to make a show. That's to get ratings. Gotta get the ratings. It's really important. But I'm just like, whatever, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. I mean, seriously. You want to see some real snow, then, live up here. Live up north of us. I mean, come on. There's a reason that places like Lewis County in New York get so much snowmobile traffic and so much revenue from snowmobilers. It gets a lot of snow. I mean, they have at the end of or the beginning of April every year, except for last year, but every year for the last like 15 years or something like that, they have what's called it's called the SNIRT Run, SNIRT, and basically it's a way for ATVs to get out there and ride early season before the trails open. It's riding on the fire roads up there. But the snowmobile club uses it as a fundraiser, and they get a lot of people. I think they had like 5,000 people this year. But it's called SNIRT because it's snow and dirt. I mean, it's I've watched videos. If you're up there on, I mean, I've seen some videos with some really stupid people riding dirt bikes and some stupid people riding the little sport ATVs that, they're two-wheel drive, and they get stuck in the snow. I mean, the beginning of April up there in Lewis County, there may be enough snow for snowmobiles still. Might not. But, Lewis County is one of the ones that's in the weather. Let's see, I think we're a weather advisory. They're in a warning, which there's something in between those two. That's not as bad as what they're under, but it's more than what we're under. They're expected to get a foot of snow overnight. To them, they're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. But to somebody from New York City, that's going to shut them down. I mean, if someplace in the Carolinas got even half that, the state would be closed. So, it's all relative to where you are. But the idea that snow is ever welcome is, that's just stupid. But, oh well. Well, folks, hopefully Ryan will be back next week. Had another topic, but I rambled a bit longer on the electric cars than I thought I would. Of course, I went on pretty good with the snow too, because it's so unwelcome in the middle of April. And just to be clear, there's only 1 month, I believe, only 1 month that the Syracuse region or central New York region has not had snow. And that's July. Just saying. Alrighty. So I'm sure you heard the music starting up. We'll see ya.